right, so what's up, everybody, and welcome to the House of Jazz podcast. Listen, I'm super excited today because, listen, I want to go ahead and let y'all know that we got a special guest. But before we get started, because this is the House of Jazz, you know we got the house rules. And so I want to keep reminding you guys about the house rules. Now, rule number one is that you choose you and watch everything else choose you too. Keep yourself at the top of your priority list. This is what we are. This is what we're gathering here in the House of Jazz. And rule number two is to revert back to rule number one. Now, I also want to mention, now I'm a Southern girl. I was born in Southwest Georgia. I'm talking about right above Florida. And in the South, we were taught, listen, anything that goes on in your house stays in your house. But that's not what we're doing here, right? So the House of Jazz, what we're going to mainly focus on, that if we had a rule number three, it would be that what goes on in our house does not stay in our house. So with that being said, if you find something here, if you hear something here, if something resonates with you, even a little bit, I need you to share that. Because we're sharing what goes on in the House of Jazz with the world, okay? And so without further ado, I want to introduce our special guest. I just want to do the beginning part of it, though, because I'm going to let her do her own thing, all right? So I want y'all to welcome to the show my girl, Rose Golden. What's up, Rose?
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Good. You looking good, girl?
Thank you.
Yes. And so I'm super excited that you're here.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. And before, we get all into it, I want you to tell people, who's Rose Golden?
Yes. Okay. Hey, y'all. So I am Rose Golden. I am a host and wellness content creator. I am a lover of all things wellness and creativity. I have my own show. It's called The Golden Hour with Rose Golden. I am your host, Rose Golden, and it is a talk show that honors the in-between. So in a sense, if you feel like you are not quite your old self, but also not quite your new self, then that is exactly what the show is about. So
awesome.
That's like a little bite side, but it's like, I am a lot of things. Those are what I do. You know what I mean?
I love it.
That's what I do.
I love it. And I love that you said that, because a lot of times when you ask people who are you, they think about what they do instead of who they are in essence. And a lot of times that's because we have grown up in a society where we are defined by the things that we do and how we can produce for other people. And so I think that's kind of how we get lost too. But I think I want to ask that question again.
Okay.
So Rose Golden, who are you?
Who are I? Okay, who are I? Right. Well, government
name. What's your good government name, Rose?
So the government is Mackenzie Rose Brown.
Oh, that's so pretty.
That is
I told
me.
you I love Mackenzie Rose. That's so pretty.
That is me. I know I said like a lover of wellness and creativity, so that all still stands true. Who am I? I am a spirit-led individual. It's such a hard question to answer, because I'm like, who am I?
Tell the truth and shame the devil.
Oh my God. Yeah, this is like, okay, who am I? And it's always like when you ask these questions, you start to blank of like, I have no idea who I am.
And that's cool, and that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I say lover of creativity, lover of wellness, lover of fashion. I am a kind-hearted, I'm a daughter, I am a friend, I am a lover.
Multifaceted.
Very much so multifaceted. I do a lot, and it's very hard to like put it in digestible pieces for others, but I'm a lot. I'm a lot.
In this entrepreneurial world that we are taught, hey, focus on this thing, do this thing, say this is what you do, and that's again how we get lost in not being able to tell like who we are versus what we do. But something about what you do that I absolutely love is that wellness piece. Oh, that wellness piece. And I like that you said wellness, because oftentimes when people hear health and wellness, they first start to think about gym. They first start to think about the physical, and that is a very important part. But in your wellness journey and what you talk about wellness, tell us a little bit more about that. And keep in mind that this is the House of Jazz. I want you to be comfortable. I want you to be very, very, as much transparent as you want to be. Just get real comfortable, and let's get into it.
So there are 8 dimensions of wellness, right? But I focus on 3 in particular. So physical, emotional, and social. Those are like what I have focused on right now. For the physical piece, that's like, going to the gym, eating healthy, healthy recipes and everything. But more recently, I know we're going to talk about what we were just talking about. So more recently, I have been wanting to discuss more like weight loss.
Okay.
And not what you think about when you think of weight loss, of like losing weight quickly, you know, restricting yourself. It's more of combining the emotional wellness with the physical wellness.
Yes.
Right? So I am a yo-yo waiter. I've been as much as 260 and as low as 180 and have been kind of in between there. But when I was talking to a health coach, she kept telling me not to use the language of losing weight, because she's like, you don't want to find it again.
Absolutely.
You don't want to find it.
Absolutely.
I don't want to
Weight
find the
be
weight
gone.
again. We're going to release the weight. But in order for me to release the weight, I have to understand why I keep gaining it back in the first place. Okay.
I love that.
We're not even 5 minutes in and we getting into it.
I love
We're
that.
getting into it, yeah. So it was like, why is it that you are choosing the foods that you're choosing? Why are you choosing the ways in which that you are eating? Why do you feel like food is the only way that you can seek comfort, right? You know, and that's a whole...
That goes back into the emotional part, mentally.
And I think that part is missing for me when it comes to like the whole weight loss industry. It's like we only hear, you know, calorie deficit and you got to work out 5-6 days a week and do A, B, C, and D, and all that is great and cool, and I've done that. I did that part. But what I didn't address was, again, why is it that I keep putting it back on in the first place? I got to address my relationship with food. And I think that's something that I'm being more open about now, and like not as ashamed about. But I also recognize there are so many people that do not have a good relationship with food.
Absolutely.
There are so many people that don't know how to eat for their bodies. You know, like some people are healthier vegan. Some people need to eat red meat. So it's like, what is that for me? And then once I get that for myself, how can I then help others figure out what works for them too? So
I think that's super amazing, because what it reminds me of is a while ago when I relaunched my business. I actually been in entrepreneurship since about 2012, and I relaunched my fitness business around 2018. And that fitness business was mainly focused towards moms. And one thing that I realized in running that business was that the ladies that I was coming across, even though I was helping women lose 13, 14, 21 pounds, 22 pounds in 21 days. And it wasn't the fact that I was trying to get them quick weight loss. It was just the fact that I had a formula that worked where they didn't have to restrict themselves. But then there were women that were actually losing the weight and keeping it off. And then there were women that were losing the weight and gaining it back. They weren't seeing the same results.
Twice.
So I was wondering, like, what is going on? And after talking to a lot of the clients, I realized that they were attaching the weight loss goal to something else outside of themselves. And so that's when I started wanting to do that deeper work with them about what is the root and what is the relationship that comes in when it comes to food, the reason why we can't release the weight while we're just losing the weight. So I think that's amazing that you say that, because you're right. There are a lot of people out there, a lot of women especially, that are suffering from that or suffering with that.
And even, you know, I think the difference between men and women is our hormones.
Absolutely.
And a lot of the reason why we cannot keep weight off either is we have these hormonal imbalances too. So it's like there's so many
nuances,
like, and it's like I can't just, because men can sneeze and lose 10 pounds, and I'm like,
ain't it wrong?
It's
just so wrong. It's not fair.
It's not fair.
It's not fair. God, why?
But,
you know.
It's okay.
So I love that. So yeah, then that's one of the things that I figured out with them, and I started working with that, which brings me to the emotional part, which brings me to really having a space where, even in my program, I told my ladies, like, for these 21 days, I need for you to give yourself the permission to choose you. So what does that look like? So speaking of choosing you, what does that look like for Rose Golden?
Ooh. The first thing that came to my head was not wavering on my routines. Like, I am very particular when it comes to my quality of life that is based off of my routine. So, you know, I have to get 8 hours of sleep. I have to get 8 hours of sleep. I have to eat balanced, nutritious meals. I have to spend time with people that I love and that fill me. I also have to create.
Ooh.
So it's like, as long as I have a good balance of all of those things, then I feel like I can show up as my best self. But when I don't, especially that sleep part, and especially when the eating part, and like if I'm not working out regularly, I know that I cannot show up as my best self. So I gotta start with the basics, and then that brings me to, leveling off the playing field, and then I can. Yeah.
Good. So what's one thing that you've created lately that you're absolutely, ecstatic about?
Ooh, okay. 2 things came to mind. So I mentioned my show already, The Golden Hour with Rose Golden. I would say that is probably like that's my baby right now. And I would say so because it took a lot for me to do it. Like I am highly creative, but also a perfectionist, right? And I don't like to put things out until they are at their peak. Isn't that what we do? Like, and I love how you said, like, this is where you're starting with the show. This is not where you want to end.
Absolutely.
And I kept thinking of like, well, I can't start until I have the set and the this and the that. So I will say that this show has put me on a journey. It literally is a show. It's called the golden hour, right? It's called the golden hour because what is golden hour, right? It's between sunset and sundown. It truly is the in-between. It is a talk show that honors the in-between. But I was not allowing myself to be in my in-between. So this whole journey has been God being like, you have a show about the in-between. So I need you to allow yourself the grace that you constantly allow others, okay? So it's been teaching me a lot, but it's also been great because I feel like I'm healing through the show.
Absolutely.
And I also feel like others are healing through the show as well. For season 2, it was for all the women, and I had my launch party, before the season had come out, and everyone was kind of like giving their testimony of like how the show has like impacted them and everything. And I did not realize that literally all 14 of them were in a very dark season when they did my show.
Girl.
All of them. They were just saying how I was not in a good space, but this show just kind of helped me see myself again and just be like, oh, I'm good,
Right.
So that part feels very, very good because I recognize that the gifts that I have, like we always say, is not for us.
Yes. We were just talking about that, right?
Yeah, so it truly is not for me. It truly is for the people that are watching the show, who get to be in the show. So that's one of them. And then my other is I recently did a visual called Enjoy the Ride, where I'm like trying to think of the word. I am a director. There we go. I was like trying to, can I cuss around here?
Go ahead.
Okay, pussyfoot. I was trying to pussyfoot around the word of like, no, I am a director, and there's always music that, of course, when you hear music, you see, right, a whole vision, a whole storyline. And I have a bunch of songs saved in this album. And I finally did one where I was starring in it and also directed it. And it was another song where it was exactly what I was experiencing, where essentially it's called Enjoy the Ride, and that's exactly what the visual is about. It's like, stop stressing, you are okay. Yeah. You just need to follow your path and enjoy the ride. Yeah. And that was something that I'm just really proud of, that I got out of my comfort zone.
That's good.
And was again in front of the camera, but also behind it for that directing piece. Yeah. But I got to be my little acting bag for a second, but then just share like a really beautiful message of just chill out and enjoy the ride.
Hey, but can we be honest?
Yeah.
Like sometimes this ride is not enjoyable. Ooh. That in between is not enjoyable.
It's not.
And if I'm being totally transparent, I just feel like I'm in one of those in between seasons, and I kind of had like one of the same revelations, like. Yeah, girl, this ain't about you. I'm taking you through it, I am. But I need for you to share. I need for you to speak. But the ride is not fun. No. And one thing you said about your show, that you, with your testimonials, what you realize is that other people were in dark seasons. So I'm in a space right now where I'm really sharing things that I did not want to share online, on my Instagram. And my DMs are blowing up.
That's what happens, bro.
My DMs are blowing up, and I'm like, God, why?
Yeah.
Like, sir, because this not for you. And I also was reminded, like, this is not the first time I've taken you through something that you were embarrassed about, or you didn't like, or you didn't want to talk about. And I talk about often that when I relaunched my fitness business, I had a fitness coach, and her main thing was, when I was telling her about what I did, I told her about the program. She was like, I never had anybody come into my program that already had a program that was set. And then when I told her about some of the things that I was going through, she was like, but that's it right there. You got to tell the story.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I don't want to do it. And baby, when I tell you that was the quickest money I ever made, and it was crazy because I'm on Facebook Live bawling my life out. And in the midst of that, there were so many people that were like, okay, now you're more relatable. Now we see you. We don't see you as the athlete you've already been. We see you as the woman and as the person. And so that ride and that in between is not comfortable. And another thing that you said, you was like, it was therapeutic. And what I have gathered from everything that I've gone through and just sharing, the more I share, the more therapeutic that it is for me.
See, you guys still working on that with me.
What do you mean by that?
I don't be wanting to share.
Why though? Why?
Like you said, it's embarrassing. Like, you know, to talk, especially when it comes to like weight, you know, talking about that can be embarrassing as hell because people only see you, you know what I mean? Like they only see your physical body. And I be talking to God about this all the time. I'm just like, why is it that the thing that I'm the most ashamed about and the most embarrassed about is what you want to use? And he's like, well, exactly. Like, and it's like,
everything else is easy.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And it's also just like, because again, your pain is not only for you.
Yeah.
I am bringing you through this thing so that you can then help other people through this as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what would be the most...
the most embarrassing?
What would be the most embarrassing thing or the most painful thing that you've had in that weight loss journey? That you've had, you know, struggles with? Yeah,
I mean, we did mention it, you know, just about the whole yo-yo weight thing. I think, I would just say the whole idea of like continuing to put it back on has been the part, because I think when people look at overweight people, they just see somebody who's like lazy, you know, all of these just negative words are placed on, you know, people in larger bodies. And I absolutely am treated differently depending on the weight that I'm at. It's so many different things, you know. It's even, this part is coming to my head, so I guess I'll say it. You know, when I was younger, I was always like thick, right? You know, and had the curly hair and everything, but that was in the early 2000s when what was popular, being skinny and like straight hair and everything. Those low-rise jeans, all that stuff. Was never putting them on. But then I get to college and what's popular now? Everybody want a BBL. Everybody want natural hair. Right. So that flip really messed with me of like, oh, I can't rely on any trend for how I value and see myself. So yeah, I would say that has been the most challenging thing is just dealing with the yo-yo weight and trying to understand of like, how can I release this in a healthy way? How can I maintain this? How can I keep it off? And then serve others in doing the same, because I value health. I value wellness. I want to be well. And if, you know, in a larger body is what my body naturally wants to be at, then so be it. Yeah. You know, as long as I can maintain a healthy relationship with food. I think that's the biggest
good.
Thing. That's the biggest thing.
Ooh, but that trend piece that you just said.
That really messed with me.
That trend piece, like, it didn't work for you. And so what came to mind was that we don't follow the trends. This is why it's very important for you to do a self-reflection. In one of my courses, I talk about how it's important to audit yourself. That calls for a lot of self-reflection so that you become a lot more self-aware. And then in that, you know, taking inventory of yourself, the things that you like, the things that you don't like, the things that you actually want. Who are you outside of the things that you do? Because that then, for me, I believe, brings a more sense of authenticity. And so when the trends change, you don't have to. When the trends, when it's something different, you don't have to, because you're so comfortable and confident in who you are that it doesn't matter what trend is happening. You're still the trendsetter because you're being authentic in
That was a word.
who you are.
He said, when the trends change, you don't have to.
Yeah.
That was good.
That's dope.
That was good.
So, so tell us, what's next for Rose Golden?
Oh, what's next? What is next? That's a great question. I feel like I'm figuring that out right now. I truly feel like these past 2 years have been, what do you want to do? What do you don't want to do? What is next for me? Well, season 3.
Yeah.
Season 3, we are starting to film that pretty soon.
Congratulations.
Season 3, thank you. Season 3 is for the men. So that's next.
What you talking about with these men, honey? With the men folk?
Yeah, honestly, I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm doing kind of like season interviews right now with some men of like, how is it that I as a woman can create a safe space for you? And I was talking to one of my guy friends, and he was like, men are gonna cap for you regardless. Like, you kind of got to keep that in mind. I'm like, all right, yeah, true. But still, like, what do I need to say? What question do I need to ask? In order for you to feel safe enough to be vulnerable, with me. So I want to talk about fatherhood. I want to talk about definitely toxic masculinity. Definitely, I want to talk about like emotions and how they are able to navigate their emotions. Like I want to get to the nitty gritty with the men for sure. Yeah. So that's next. What else is next? I've been talking about this. I'm speaking it out loud, but I'm getting back into the event space. I'm getting back to curating experiences.
That's good.
That's something that I'm very passionate about, because I think, content has taken off in the past 10 years, and that's great, but I'm better in person. I connect better in person with people. Girl. Yeah, like, his energy is real, and you can't always feel that, through a screen. So I just want to curate spaces for people to have conversations, to heal, to laugh, to cry.
Yeah.
Like, I want to do all of that. So those are my 2 focuses.
Good.
I want to say, yeah.
Good.
I think that's it.
One thing that you mentioned, and I feel it has been kind of reoccurring, which I think is beautiful, is the figuring it out. Yeah. Because I think oftentimes that we have been conditioned to believe we have to always have it together. And it is my belief, and I heard this in a sermon and it made so much sense, that when it comes to the things that we need and the things that God blesses us with, like I'm in a season where I'm like, oh, okay, well, just lost my job. How these bills gonna get paid? So I know God gives me the strategy, but I heard in the sermon that he's not gonna give you the full thing at one time. He's gonna give you bits and pieces, so you have to go with what you got. But then when you live in a society that tells you or makes you feel like you gotta have it all together, that is not true. You need to go with what you have and figure that thing out. I got a friend that always says we gonna figure it out, even though that friend don't really be, that's just the way it's like, okay, whatever. But yeah, like that's a thing, like we gonna figure it out, and we don't always have to have it together, because oftentimes it's not meant for us to have it together. No. It's a bunch of little puzzle pieces for you to go and kind of figure out like what's going on. And I know that we were talking yesterday because I met you in another program. And so I asked you, I say, okay, so what was that experience like afterwards? And, kind of like, what did you get out of that? Yeah. And what did you tell me?
I said, so the program was called Shooters Camp. And I had basically was in there like, oh, I don't want to do this. I invested in myself, thinking that I wanted a photography business. Yeah. And then I didn't at all. But I was so grateful for that experience, because I learned a lot of transferable skills and great people. Right. I just was able to realize I just didn't want to do it. And I told you yesterday, I said, I think that's really good, because sometimes I know I've invested in myself in a lot of programs, some coaches and things like that. And sometimes people feel like, oh, well, I didn't get what I came to get. No, you did. You got what you needed to get. And
even in your case, that was, oh, I really don't want to do this.
Yeah.
But I am taking something from this experience and being able to apply it. And so I think people need to know that sometimes you invest in yourself monetarily, with your energy, your time, and all those things. And though you may not get the big promise that program or that coach, you know, set forth, you may get the clarity that this is not what I want to do. This is good, and I appreciate it. And maybe you were put in that space to meet people, connecting the puzzles.
Exactly.
And so I think that was very important. And when you said that, I thought that was like, because I've been in spaces where I didn't get the big promise, but I got connection to people.
Yeah. I learned a lot, like even the technical skills, right, of working with the camera. I'm currently working on a show that has cameras, right, and there is some kind of the technical aspect that I needed for that. Even people like you, it's like, you know, we're here how many years later, having this conversation now, and it's like, no, I'm never regretful of investing in myself, because I always get something out, especially when I feel like God places it in my heart. It was placed in my heart to do that program. You know? So I'm no regret. No, definitely not regretful at all. Love it. At all.
Okay, so we're gonna get ready to wrap this thing up. So I want to ask you 2 questions that's kind of like based on our house rules, right? So you know what is said in this house does not stay in this house. So if there was one thing that you had to say that you would want people to share, what would it be?
That's one thing that people just share. Well, the first thing that's in my head is how I end every episode. And I say, go out there and do something your future self will thank you for, and your past self will love you for.
That's good.
That's the first thing that came into my head, is I want to say that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I want to say, don't be ashamed of your journey. I want to say that as well.
That's good.
I want to say, don't be ashamed of your journey, because
baby,
like hindsight, is it hindsight, right?
Hindsight,
right. Because like in hindsight, I can see how all the things that I have been through can help others, right, and have put me exactly where I need to be. But when you're going through it, it's like, why am I going through this?
Right.
But don't be ashamed, because there's a bigger purpose for it. So
cool.
Yeah.
And so the first house rule is choose you and watch everything else choose you too. Keep yourself at the top of your priority list. What is something you're going to do today, this week, where you're going to like choose yourself? And I want you to let this be known. If it's something that's kind of like more self-care, or self-maintenance than like real self-care, then that's cool. But tell me how you're choosing you today or this week.
Couple things came to mind. I'm gonna definitely gonna treat your feet.
Yeah,
I'm definitely gonna treat your feet.
I gotta go there.
And please, I'm telling you,
it
is the best foot massage you will ever get. Okay, I love me a good massage. I love being pampered. So I will say I'm gonna do that. So that's like a tangible thing. But the other thing that came to mind was like really planning these events I keep talking about, that I keep dreaming about, that I keep speaking about. Like I need to actually put my thoughts down onto paper. And, you know, I mentioned in the beginning that choosing me looks like creating. And sometimes I feel stagnant when I do not allow my creations to go from my head to, you know, outside of my body. So I need to get these ideas out. I need to get these things out. I need to get them on paper and then to start planning them. So that is one way. Another way I'm going to choose myself. I'm going to act.
Acting, choosing yourself. I love it. I love it. So thank you, Rose Golden, for being on the House of Jazz podcast. You're gonna come back and visit us?
Of course.
All right.
Of course.
All right. So you guys, until the next time, all right, make sure that you choose you and watch everything else choose you too. Keep yourself at the top of your priority list. Until next time, we'll see you on the House of Jazz podcast. Peace.